Good afternoon, and thank you for tuning in to Leadership Matters, informing leaders, inspiring solutions. I'm Sheryl White, and today we're going to be talking about leadership and nature-based wellness. Delighted to have two fabulous guests to help us have this conversation. We have Dr. Olga Osby, partner with Clean State Behavioral Health Solutions, and it's actually behavior. Is it behavior health or behavioral?
Behavioral.
Oh, it is behavioral health. Great. Solutions in Jackson, Mississippi. So, Dr. Osby, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
And also delighted to have Dr. Durryle Brooks, and known as the Conflict Sheperd, who is the founder and CEO of Love and Justice Consulting based in Baltimore, Maryland. So, Dr. Brooks, glad to have you with us today as well.
Thank you so much, Dr. White. It's so good to be here.
It is great to have you here. I'm going to start by just asking each of you, maybe starting with yourself, Dr. Osby, to share a little bit about yourself and your own leadership journey.
Okay. Well, I'm originally from Shreveport, Louisiana, so I'm a Southerner at heart. I attained my master's and my doctorate degrees from Howard University in the School of Social Work. So I'm a social worker by training, but jack of all trades, some people would tell me as well. I was in academia for about 25 years. And after that, I moved into forming my own agency or an agency with my co-founder, Dr. Mary Nallums, and we founded Clean Slate Behavioral Health Solutions in Jackson, Mississippi. And I'm also a former Kellogg Fellow too. So my leadership journey is that, I've worked both in social services, community-based organizations and leadership positions, as well as doing administrative work for schools of social work in several different universities.
Awesome. Well, so glad to have you join us today. And also, Dr. Brooks, would love to hear about you.
Yes, I think I will start by saying for most of my life, I have thought of myself as an unlikely leader. I think some of my early childhood experiences made me doubt myself in really profound ways, which meant that most of my life I was just trying to get by, to go under the radar, and to really make myself as small as possible. And I am too also a Kellogg Fellow, and it was in that space that I really came in to really own my own voice and my own story, to understand my own power, the way in which I perceived what leadership was, which is around leading with empathy and care, was actually nurtured in that space. And I think what I've been able to learn on this journey is that when I began to spend time with myself and to really think about the ways that I want to be encouraged and supported and nurtured, and think about how other people want to be supported and nurtured, it's actually been able to help me sort of develop new levels of empathy and access new levels of possibility. And so I've been able to have leadership since then in a couple of different ways, and school boards, and also founding my own company, Love and Justice Consulting, where we sort of specialize in conflict resolution and navigation. And also, I had the privilege of working with one of my first doctoral students, and helping them to shepherd them through for their dissertation writing phase. So that's a little bit about me, and I'm here in Baltimore.
And it is wonderful to hear a little bit about you and to know that you're no longer hiding, but you are flying out there as wonderful butterfly.
Thank you, Dr.
And that you've come into your own, and that is just fabulous to see. I'm going to ask both of you to elaborate a little bit on your connection to our topic with regards to nature-based wellness. Dr. Brooks, let's start with you.
Yeah, so I think I would probably go back. My earliest memory, or my most recent memory, was when COVID-19 hit, and we were all sort of in the house, and we were afraid to be in connection with each other because of the fear of not knowing what that would have resulted in, particularly for folks like my family, where folks have multiple health-related issues. A part of me also I was like, I have to go outside. I have to get out. I needed to start exploring in new and different ways because I didn't really have people to connect with in the way that I was used to. And so I started walking a ton around my neighborhood. And I also, for the first time, took up photography more seriously. And because there was so much going on in the world, I was trying to find the beauty in it again. And so as I was walking along the trails around a reservoir where I lived, big trees, I found my love for taking pictures of trees and plants. And it's also in that space where I also started to find myself re-regulating my nervous system, my mind, my heart, my spirit, so that I could begin to navigate sort of all of the complexities that came with surviving and living through, a pandemic, once in 100 years of situation. So I rediscovered the importance of nature and wellness really around that time.
Awesome. Thanks, Dr. Brooks. How about yourself, Dr. Osby?
Well, like Dr. Brooks, my awareness about nature-based wellness also came through COVID. I think COVID was a great revealer to a lot of us about a lot of things. But it was through that isolation that I think everyone started recognizing that they were placed in situations where they were locked behind closed doors, and sometimes the people that you were locked behind closed doors with just added to tension and stress and all of that. And so, and unfortunately, sometimes, and particularly in social work, we recognize that domestic violence went up as well as child abuse. And so those were two major issues. But I was talking to a friend of mine in Washington, D.C., who still worked in an area that I first met her in, working with families in public housing. And so she was hearing about all the escalating violence within the families in some of the complexes. So she started a group where she would get some of the families out into the park. And Washington, D.C. has great parks. And so she gathered several couples, husbands and wives, got them in the park, sitting on the ground. And she said, once being out of their environment into nature, getting grounded with the grass and the dirt and the trees and everything, she said they started to relax, and to the point where some of them started crying. And they started unleashing all this emotional baggage and all this toxic energy that was inside of them. And so we started talking about the healing nature of just being out in an environment like that, around grass, around trees, around the lakes, and that how important that was in terms of getting them to a process so they can go back in and have that renewal of their spirit. So we started working on that, and even published an article about that nature-based wellness as well, which people can find on my website. I'll give later. But it's very important for people to realize that being out in nature can do so much for your mind, body, and spirit.
Wonderful. Love it. And that actually maybe have us to dive a little deeper into that, Dr. Osby, and maybe just state explicitly, what is nature-based wellness?
Well, nature-based wellness is really, I consider, a tool or technique that can help people address their toxic stress, and also to promote their physical and mental well-being. It encourages, I think, the use of nature to offset social and emotional negativity, because once you're out there and you're breathing in the fresh air, you can breathe out a lot of toxic energy that's within you as well. And it leads to reducing that toxic stress. And it helps people to integrate the practice of using nature as a therapeutic tool in their daily lives. And one of the things I tell people is that, it's great to go out and spend a little time, once a week, but if you can incorporate it into your daily life as well, of going out and doing something in nature, standing in nature, getting your vitamin D, that can be essentially healthy for you overall. But research has really shown that this works. It is not just something that is like a new age kind of thing. I think it's something that our ancestors really passed down to us, and understanding that relationship between our bodies and nature. And so there's research out there that shows that being out in nature is good for the body because it helps to reduce your stress. It can improve your mood, and I've witnessed that. It can heighten your cognitive functioning. It really helps to lower blood pressure as well because you're getting all of that toxicity out. And one of the things that even my doctors have told me was that just standing out in the sunlight helps promote the vitamin D. And that is really important for your immune system. And it really kind of helps the brain cells keep working the way it is as well. So that's one of the things where I tell people that nature-based wellness is really a holistic approach to looking at wellness among in your body, your mind, and I think in terms of your spirit and soul as well.
Wonderful. And then Dr. Brooks, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I would say, for me, it really is about relocating ourselves in a broader ecology. It is about remembering that we are not superior to the things that are around us, that we are a part of it. And that when we go back to the places where we came from, we're sprung from, the trees, the grass, all of those things, we begin to write our relationship and to learn how to live in deeper and better harmony with the things that are around us. And I believe in that we get to some of the therapeutic pieces of that is that I get to see myself, my problems perhaps, not as the most central thing to me because I'm a part of this big thing. I can look up at this tree that's been here for hundreds of years and begin to imagine what was it like? What does it see? How does it feel? Like, what would it, if it could talk, what would it say to me? And then it also sometimes has us to come in, focus inward to the smallest of plants that are just percolating around the tree, the things that are growing right nearby. And so from my perspective, it is a mechanism to help us remember that we are a part of an interdependent ecosystem. And when we live right by it, we can reap the benefits and help us become more in tune and alignment with the world around us and within.
Mhm. Wonderful. Excuse me, like I have to cough here. Thank you both for those wonderful explanations of, just what nature-based wellness is. It's like we're going to need to go to a commercial break, but when we come back on the other side, I ask you to share why is it important to leaders with regards to this nature-based wellness? What's the translation there? Maybe how has it impacted your own lives, your own leadership journey, and what are the benefits related to it with regards to wellness in the workplace? So please stay with us, and we'll be right back with more on Leadership Matters, informing leaders, inspiring solutions. And we are back with more on Leadership Matters. For those who are just joining us, I'm Sheryl White with the Neighborhood House Association in San Diego, California. Delighted today to be speaking with two fabulous guests talking about leadership and nature-bound wellness. We have Dr. Olga Osby, partner with Clean State Behavioral Health Solutions in Jackson, Mississippi, and Dr. Durryle Brooks, the Conflict Sheperd, founder and CEO of Love and Justice Consulting based in Baltimore, Maryland. Welcome back to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Want to continue this dialogue, and maybe Dr. Brooks, have you lead us out and thinking about why is nature-based wellness important to leaders?
Yeah, I think that's a really important question. And I can start by sort of framing it around Dr. Olga mentioned all of the powerful benefits that we gain when we sort of go out and spend time in the sun in the large green areas near bodies of water. And so all of those things begin to help us re-regulate our nervous system. They help to settle us down, to help us find peace and equilibrium again. And so for me, what that means is that in my leadership, that means that when stress or anxiety or the swiftness of work is happening, I actually can respond with a level of ease and stillness and not to be reactionary. When I'm out being in, like taking really good care of myself in nature, around the things that are helping me to feel grounded, I have increased capacity to navigate and move through conflict. And so from my perspective in the work that I do around conflict shepherding, I always start to encourage people to figure out what are you doing to actually fill you up again, so that you can actually be able to name, navigate, and engage across any of the challenges that you might be facing. So I would enter that it becomes important because as you're managing people, as you're managing yourself, self-regulation, it's really hard to do when you are dysregulated on the inside. And so when I manage by sort of taking deep care of me, I actually get to be not only a better version of myself for myself, but for the people that I'm supervising, that I'm leading through really complicated life experiences as well. And so that's what I would say as an entry point is why this becomes really, really important for leaders so that they can show up with a level of reflection and self-awareness and stillness, and to be able to make choices that are proactive and not reactive.
Awesome. Love that, Dr. Brooks. And Dr. Osby, anything you'd like to add as to why nature-based wellness is important to leaders?
Well, I love what Dr. Brooks stated, and I agree with that 100%. I also believe that it's important for leaders to understand the personal benefits of engaging in nature-based wellness and healing, because it can also promote retention of employees and aid in a healthier workforce and workplace. I think that once people are happy and engaged and feeling good about themselves, they feel good about their work, and that helps in terms of the longevity of people wanting to be in that particular space. I used to teach a course for social work students on social service policy and administration, basically how to become good leaders, because most of our students will go in the practice in, but then at some point find themselves in leadership positions and not really prepared to be there. So I always stress to them two things: that one, having good emotional intelligence and knowing and understanding your workers, know their strengths and their deficits, but also how to assess when a worker's declining performance may be due to a personal issue that's impacting their productivity. And it's really important to kind of recognize what's happening with that and how to deal with that in terms of, is it someone who is low performing for some reason, because they're just burnt out, stressed out, don't care about the workplace anymore, or is there something going on at home that may be an issue for them, and how to get to that particular issue. But also how to lead by example. And I believe that executives too often forget that their employees are looking and observing everything that goes on around them. Okay. And so leaders can provide means and opportunities for workers to incorporate nature-based wellness into their daily lives, both during the workday and also in their off time as well, by encouraging people to take a break, encouraging people to, go outside, take a lunch break. Some people work from the time they get into the office and time they leave. Not really the healthiest situation because it really causes more stress, and also it depletes their cognitive functioning, on the job as well. So getting out and getting rejuvenated can be extremely important for people during their workday.
Thank you, Dr. Osby. Dr. Osby, may I ask, how have you used nature-based wellness in your own life?
Would you like me to go first?
I would, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, well, I started spending more time outside too, just like Dr. Brooks stated, especially when I'm here at home. I try to begin my day by taking my cup of coffee because my day does not start without that cup of coffee. Right? Don't even try to start with me before my cup of coffee. But going outside and standing outside and breathing. And so I try to also do some mindfulness and some deep breathing exercise. And I found that going outside and doing that early in the morning, giving myself those minutes have really been helpful for me in terms of just being able to give my day a kickstart. Um, I also started a garden. Now, I'm the worst gardener in the world. I tell people that plants come to my house to die, but I'm getting better. And I actually have this year, I started planting last year. This year, I have the most beautiful lilies in my backyard right now. And in the morning, I like opening up the windows and looking at my lilies. And there's something about it that just bring happiness and joy to me.
Mhm.
I find myself smiling. So it's a good way to kind of start off and feeling just really grateful for the things I have around me, just the natural things around me.
Mhm.
And so that's been, a big thing in my life. And we have a reservoir here in Jackson, Mississippi. And so I've invited friends to come out and just sit around the reservoir. It's a great place to just meet and chat. Bodies of water are good for me personally. So whenever I get a chance to travel somewhere, I try to travel something where there's bodies of water. And in January, I took a 2-week trip. I've never taken 2 weeks off in my life, but I traveled to Panama, and it became a soul retreat for me.
Mhm.
And so now I'm working with, and I'm telling everybody who will give me 2 seconds to
Mhm.
listen, that you
Mhm.
need to take a soul retreat. That
Mhm.
I came back feeling like a totally different
Mhm.
person, more motivated and ready to really just conquer some more projects and do some more things. So I think that on a personal level, I'm trying to use myself the same way, I tell students to
Mhm.
use yourself as an example of how these things are really benefiting me and how people can also find their own way in terms of finding something that's going to work for them as well.
Mhm. Okay, so I have to ask you to double click on the soul retreat. So I don't know what that means to me, but what does that mean to you? And what might our listening audience take away from the term soul retreat?
Well, it started off on the first time I was on a soul retreat. It started off as supposed to have been a writing retreat, but a tornado went through the day before, and we didn't have power where we were staying. So on the first day, we couldn't do anything except sit on the porch in these rocking chairs. We were in South Carolina, and all of us agreed that we didn't need to write that day. We really need to just de-stress and just bring our stress level temperatures down. And
Mhm.
so that's when I started recognizing when one of my friends said, I feel like I'm not on a writing retreat, I'm on a soul retreat because I feel so rejuvenated. And it
Mhm.
gave her and all of us an opportunity to kind of think about our next steps in life. And we left with some writing done because the power did come back on, but we also were able to put some things into perspective. And I think that that's what happens with us too much,
Mhm.
too often. We're so busy day to day doing what just absolutely has to be done that there's really no space or time for us to just sit and think about our next steps. Where do we want to go? Where do we see ourselves? Take a temperature of our bodies, because if we stop long enough, our body will tell us what's going on.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so all those things were compacted for me in having that retreat in Panama, to just be able to sit out, look at the beaches, sit by a pool, giving myself the time and luxury that otherwise a few years ago I would have felt tremendous guilt
Mhm.
about taking that amount of time for myself. But
Mhm.
recognizing that, I did not really have to go all the way to Panama. I could do that, at home, but it's giving myself else. I'm devoting this to me. I'm investing in myself.
Mhm. Wonderful. Dr. Brooks, let's hear from you with regards to how you've incorporated nature-based wellness into your own life.
Yeah, I think one of the primary ways that I've done that is to really to make a focus of identifying the things that I need in order to be my best version of myself. And once I was able to get clear about that, I could see many different threads, but nature was one of them that really helped me to both imagine myself in ways that are actually mimicking the environment that I am. So the stillness of a tree, to really think about it, I get to go and contemplate what, from my perspective, would it mean for me to be in one place, to stop moving so quickly, to slow down, to pause, and to just be present with what is. And I think for me, I do that on these long walks that I take across Baltimore City by bodies of water. And then I often just come and get to a tree. I make sure that I touch it. I say, thank you. I appreciate you for providing shade and for being here for hundreds of years. And you will be here long after I'm gone. And so I think for me, it has become almost a daily ritual. I try to get out every single day. Some days it's a little hard, but I do take every opportunity to make sure that I am taking good care of myself in relationship to the planet.
Mhm. Wonderful. Thank you. Wow. I think lots to think about from what each of you have shared. We're going to take another break, but when we come back, I'm going to ask you just to share, what are some benefits to nature-based wellness in the workplace, and what are some techniques that our leaders that may be listening today could use, perhaps some that they might use for themselves and others that they might use to encourage nature-based wellness among their employees. So please stay with us, and we'll be right back with more on Leadership Matters, informing leaders, inspiring solutions. And we are back with more on Leadership Matters. Today, we are talking about leadership and nature-based wellness with Dr. Olga Osby, partner with Clean State Behavioral Health Solutions in Jackson, Mississippi, and Dr. Durryle Brooks, the Conflict Sheperd, founder and CEO of Love and Justice Consulting based in Baltimore, Maryland. So again, just glad to have both of you with us. And Dr. Brooks, I'm going to throw this one over to you to start with regards to what might be some of the benefits you would call out as it relates to nature-based wellness in the workplace.
Yeah, I think so. A part of my thinking around sort of nature-based sort of wellness, I think there are um, lessons that I believe when we begin to sort of encourage people to go out and be in nature and to be observers of the world, that we allow nature to begin to teach us. And we talk about that as sort of oftentimes as biomimicry. And I think it is in that process of learning that we get to learn about lessons about sort of like how things can be multiple things can be true at the same time. For example, like when I pay attention to nature, I also get to realize that nature rests, for example. It's never always overly producing. And so when I'm in thinking about the work context, how might I take a lesson about sort of how at night, flowers open up during the day and then they begin to close to demonstrate the need to sort of be clear and intentional about how I'm using my energy so I'm not burning out. So as a leader in an organization, I'm thinking about regeneration. I'm thinking about how do I sort of provide space for people to do enough of what they need to do, but not to overdo it, especially knowing that the impacts of ongoing issues related to experiences in life that have challenged us, and those adverse experiences, sometimes we're bringing them into the workspace with us. And so when I'm encouraging in the workspace to really be mindful, I'm helping people to think about how do you invite people to slow down, especially when their nervous system is highly activated. And it also invites us, from my perspective, to think about like, if you look at sort of the mycelial network, like how we're all deeply connected, and that all of those things, all nature has a wisdom. So how do I actually in a workspace honor the fact that there are different types of knowing, there's different ways of being and doing, and how do I make space for that in the workplace? And so I think a part of me from the philosophical side of me says, if I pay attention to nature, I might learn how to lead better. I also might be able to encourage people to lead differently in ways that actually support a collective. And then when you're in the space, I'd say, you can always just add some additional greenery. You could always add space for intentional walks or pauses or slowing down in those moments where urgency always feels to be on the back of our heels. And I think that for me is sort of that relationship there.
Wonderful. Thank you. Dr. Osby, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I think that two things that management or executive leaders have to be conscious of with their workforce are burnout and compassion fatigue. Burnout because a lot of times in very high intense, stressful environments, people can burn out very quickly, and they give their all and they give their everything to the workplace, and it could really be detrimental. Just this morning, someone was telling me that he just started a new job and spoke with a woman who has had both a heart attack and an aneurysm from the stress of being in that particular workspace. And how difficult, and I've seen workers dedicated to what they're doing, but it's taken a tremendous toll on their bodies. And so you really have to look at and think about what we're doing to our workers and
Mhm.
how they are reacting to the stress levels that they're confronted with. They may love the job, they may love the people they're working for and what they're doing, the cause, but it could take a toll, and you'll end up losing some very dedicated people because of that. And I know in social work we do have an issue around compassion fatigue, where people are working in situations where it's so intense in terms of what people's needs are
Mhm.
and what they're facing, that after a while, I think it's just the body's way of doing some self-protection. It just shuts
Mhm.
down.
Mhm.
And so people have to find ways, and I think it's really incumbent on organizations that's putting people on the front lines with that to also help them in terms of finding ways to rejuvenate themselves, to make sure that they are getting the things that they need to continue on the job. And so I think that giving opportunities or providing opportunities for some nature-based wellness
Mhm.
as a part of the overall office, just mode of operation can lead to a much healthier staff.
Mhm.
Because you don't want people, no one should want your employees suffering with those kinds of debilitating, potentially debilitating incidents like having a heart attack or a stroke or an aneurysm because of the stress level. You want to have maintain a stable pool of staff members and
Mhm.
not have a revolving door. And I've worked in agencies and witness agencies that people leave the organization like the building's on fire, because it's just that intense in terms
Mhm.
of being there. So you need to retain really good staff members and help them become much more focused in the workplace. And that's where the cognitive benefits of that nature-based wellness comes in. And then you'll have a much happier staff. So we really do have to look in terms of that. And I love the work of Dr. Brooks in terms of looking at the conflict resolution and dissension that may happen among staff, because that can really hurt staff morale as well. And so we
Mhm.
have to be on the lookout in terms of the health of, the people that's really doing the work, who are on the front lines, who are giving their all in all to be in that agency. Because I certainly know for social work, people are not there necessarily because they think they're going to get rich. They're there because they're dedicated to, the cause. They're dedicated to the people that they're working with. They want to build community, but they need to be just as healthy as the community that they're serving.
Mhm. Wonderful. Thank you. Dr. Brooks, what might be some techniques that a leader might use as relates to encouraging nature-based wellness for themselves and or for their employees?
Yeah, I think one of the uh, things that immediately came to mind is around how do we begin to incentivize and create space for people to actually take time when they need to. And so I think on the structural side of it, it is actually, back in the day, their companies used to take them out to go clean up and go around sort of waterfronts or things like that. And I haven't seen that same interest in sort of gathering, staff and sort of taking them to do a social good, if you will, in this space. But I encourage us in this moment that maybe that's an opportunity for folks who are interested in that to structurally be able to say, hey, there's a thing that I want to do around a park, or can we take a walk? Can we take our meeting outside to a park and work out there for the day or for a few hours to kind of mix it up a little bit. I think it's about helping people to reimagine that brilliance and genius happens outside of a desk and a chair as well, and that they might actually do better work. And so I think at the structural level, that's kind of one offering, incentivizing, and then two, creating a policy or practice around saying, hey, you can go. Or if you need your time off for your mental health day, you don't have to tell me what that is. But we have it written in and codified into our policy that you have so many hours or so many days a month that you can take just for you.
Mhm.
And I think that becomes an important piece of honoring. And I think when I'm thinking about nature-based wellness, is learning to honor the things that are around us. And we are people and we have feelings and emotions, and we are just like everything else. And so how do we honor that brilliance and our body's needs to,
Mhm.
to be at ease and to be at peace?
Mhm. Wonderful, thank you. Dr. Osby, anything you might add with regards to techniques that a leader might use for themselves or employees?
One of the first things I thought about with this particular question was something I picked up from you, Cheryl, the first day that we and you told me that we were going to talk about if I was taking care of my meds, and you
Mhm.
explained that med stood for medicine, exercise, diet, and sleep. And I was like,
Meditation.
oh, meditation. Yeah, meditation. And I was like, oh my God, I hadn't thought about it in quite those terms. But that's something that I've shared with other people as well, how important it is to just do those essential things for yourself, and to make sure that you're making a mental note of that every single day. But some of the other things I would add on are the same things that Dr. Brooks mentioned, that is really therapeutic for you to take mental health breaks. One former director of an agency I worked in would encourage us to take mental health days. And he said, you don't always want to stay home because you're sick. Stay home because you're well, and take advantage of that. And I picked that up, and it's always been a part in the back of my mind. Even when I was leading agencies, I would encourage people to take one of your sick days, or take a reserve day, and make it a mental health day. Enjoy it for yourself, or if you have children, if you want to spend some time with your kids that day, if that's what will rejuvenate you, that's what you need to do. But I mentioned taking a few minutes, going outside in the morning, and to do your deep breathing, maybe organize at work among the employees, walking lunches, and that could also be a team building exercise as well. I picked up this thing in terms of forest bathing, and when I first heard the term, I was like, "What, are you taking a bath in the forest?" And they were like, no, you go out and you go among the trees, you walk in the woods, and you take in all of that nature, which I think is a wonderful, wonderful concept in terms of people doing that. I also encourage people to sit by bodies of water, because I think there's a relaxing effect in terms of that. And so if there's a pool or some kind of body of water nearby a workplace, or encourage workers to on weekends spend some time out in terms of making that part of their weekend rejuvenation. Sitting under the tree, and this is something that I wanted to mention when Dr. Brooks was talking about this earlier, about going out and being in nature and touching a tree. Because a friend of mine told me that she was out with a group of youth that she was working with, and she had a horrible headache but didn't think she could drive home. So someone else led the group, and she sat under a tree and fell asleep. And she said when she woke up, the headache was gone. She felt so much better than she's felt in days. And she goes, Olga, I think the tree healed me. And I would not, just
Mhm,
take that lightly. I think there may
mhm.
be something to that. And so
Yes.
you look in terms of that, and
Mhm,
practicing every day some grounding. Walk in grass. Don't be afraid to take your shoes off and your socks and stockings, whatever, and walk on the grass and feel nature under our feet is really important. And I
okay.
also encourage social service agencies to take their staff out, take your meeting outside, maybe go somewhere, pitch a tent, and have your sessions outside. Let people breathe the fresh air, not all that artificial air pumping through a building.
Okay.
So I think that there's all sorts of things that people can do if they use their imaginations, in terms of how do we get out of this building and make sure
Yeah.
we are taking advantage of what's out in nature.
Great. Well, thank you both, Dr. Osby and Dr. Brooks. Those are great ideas. And then Dr. Osby, I have to plug Simon Bailey on the meds because I got that
Okay.
from him. He talks about the meditation, exercise, and diet and sleep in some of his self-care books and other inspirational books. So
Well, it's
we'll
really
be
been revolutionary for me. I take advantage of that as much as possible.
Yeah, that is awesome. I try to be mindful too, trying to do a better job of that. I know we need to take another break, but when we come back, I'll ask each of you just what are some final tips you have. So stay with us and we'll be right back with more on Leadership Matters, informing leaders, inspiring solutions. And we are back with more on Leadership Matters, discussing leadership and nature-based wellness with Dr. Osby and Dr. Brooks. I'm going to actually throw it to Dr. Brooks and ask you for your any final thoughts or tips you might have on nature-based wellness and leadership.
Yeah, thank you. I think one thing that I would invite us to do is to reimagine our relationship to um, the things that are around us. And one of the lessons I learned during the pandemic was that many of the self-care strategies and techniques that we've been taught may no longer be working for us. And that in this moment with increased stress and anxiety, that I think what I talk about is moving from sort of self-care to self-reference is a way to begin to think about the ways in which we sort of ritually honor ourselves and our relationship to the earth and the plants and the greenery and the all of the things that are alive and well. And I think when we sort of move from there, we can identify the ritual practices that will help support and build capacity for us to sort of love ourselves and to love the environment in which we are part of. And I think my offering is that to get clear about sort of what your needs are, and if your current practices are insufficient, it might mean that you need to double up, triple up, or develop some new practices that actually demonstrate your reverence for yourself and its relationship to the world around us.
Wonderful. Love that. Thank you much. And how about yourself, Dr. Osby? Any final tips?
Yeah, I just think that this is a concept that can and should start from the head of the organization and filter down, and that once there's buy-in from the top of the organization and people, the workers see that their managers are really serious about they're investing in themselves, investing in their wellness, investing in their rejuvenation to have a healthier workplace, that it really has just untold benefits in terms of how that can change that environment around. So I think that any way that a company can think of ways that they can invest in getting their people outside and back into nature, maybe bringing people in to help them refocus, their energy, maybe even have yoga in the workplace, because all of that can do just wonders for helping people to help build themselves in terms of being healthy and having that wellness among the employees that'll add to their longevity.
Wonderful. And thinking of that starting from the top down, I have to say our president and CEO, Mr. Rudolph Johnson, we do have a wellness program with the fabulous wellness leader. Her name is Neama Black. You can go to our website and find all the wonderful things that she's doing at our organization, along with Mike Fitness Center, where we do have exercise during the day. We have yoga and meditation room and all that kind of wonderful stuff. So shout out to Mr. Johnson as well as to Neama Black for all they're doing at our organization, kind of like dovetailing what you're saying with regards to starting from the top down. And as Mr. Brooks has talked about, or I say Dr. Brooks has talked about, creating space for these things to happen. If our listening audience would like to get in touch with either of you, let's hear real quick maybe your contact information, starting with yourself, Dr. Osby. How might they connect with you?
Well, easily by my email address, which is my name, Olga Osby _clean slate, CLEANSLATE @outlook.com, or visit our website at cleanslatebhs.com. Either one of those ways, and I would love to hear from people.
Wonderful. Thank you. And yourself, Dr. Brooks.
Yes, people can find me through my website. Just search for www.loveandjusticeconsulting.com and go there and drop a line and we can sort of get connected. Or you could also find me on LinkedIn as well.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Dr. Durryle Brooks and Dr. Olga Osby, for being with us today and sharing all of your expertise. And thank you also to our listening audience. We ask you to please join us every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, or download our podcast at your convenience. And until next time, keep on keeping on, informing leaders, inspiring solutions.